you have to have it this way or the other way? It is.
Is it on Wi-Fi right now?
I don't know.
It's on now.
What?
It's on.
Oh.
Okay, everybody. Sorry for the disruptions there. We were trying to make sure everything was working properly. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Forgive my camera crew. They're learning this new technology. Welcome to Montgomery's church service. I've seen various formats for people doing services, and some are in church, some are in office, some are wherever. And I'll just tell you right now, ours is going to be very different. Most of my Montgomery family knows that I do things differently. I like to shake things up. So, and just to tell you, I've struggled about this because I don't want this to appear foolish. I don't want this to be glib. I want it to be worshipful, but yet I feel like this is needed. This is especially for my Montgomery family, but if you're watching and you're not from Montgomery, I'd appreciate it if you'd shut things down now because no, I'm just kidding. You're welcome. I'm happy that you're tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying time with your family because that's who we have right now. Maybe God's going to make something special in our families out of this. So if my camera crew would zoom in here a little bit, I want to show you what your pastor looks like after not shaving for a week. If you'll see here, I've grown a whole 3/16 of an inch. Okay, you can back away now, it's uncomfortable. I'm not totally sure of the exact measurements, but it's a little painful to use a micrometer on my face, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. Anyhow, I'm seriously considering not shaving until this is all said and done. My goal is I'm trying to look like Steve Walters till this is all said and done. However, this means that the virus is going to have to last for 20 years if I'm going to attain that goal, and I'm really not sure if I'm happy about that. So, anyway, we'll see what happens. Also, the reason I'm sitting here at my table and not standing up is because my pants are in the laundry. I was trying to do Michael Scott here and see if my good friend Pamela notices. Hi, Pancake. Hope you're watching. Okay, so I was just kidding about that, but if anyone has any idea what I'm talking about, then you're laughing, and those of you that don't know what I'm talking about probably think it's plain stupid, or I'm stupid, or that's okay. But the reason I wanted to start with a bit of humor is because I feel like we need it. It's okay to joke, it's okay to laugh and have fun, because we need to lighten our spirits. Do what you need to do, have fun, make memories, and I'm totally okay with you laughing at me because I'm going to do a pathetic job, poor production, I'm not good at a movie camera, or being on a movie camera. I'm trying not to read, I'm trying to give these notes like, it's just not looking very professional, I know, but I'm only good at acting up when I'm not supposed to. So, here we are in church, and I'm going to have my crew scan the audience at this time and show you who's here. Say hi to everyone, boys.
Hi.
All right, back over here now. I gave them strict instructions. They were to be quiet and not be distracting, so they're going to color some pictures while I'm preaching. But before I get into this morning, I want to, again, just make a special plea to anyone who's watching. And please understand my heart. I'm not trying to be critical or judgmental. I just want to share something that's burdening me recently, and please understand this. Try to put politics aside. Whatever you're feeling about your particular candidate, your particular government official, maybe you don't agree with them. Understand the intense weight they're carrying right now. They're making decisions that they've never had to make. They don't have a clue what they're doing, and some people would argue they didn't have a clue before this started, and I'm okay with that. I'm pastor of roughly 100 people, and it's very hard to make decisions to know what to do with your own group, and that's just a small group. Thankfully, I don't have to make those decisions on my own, but I get what these officials are feeling like. They're facing criticism at all levels, no matter what decision they make. So we as Christians right now, let's show our support and try to comply, even if we don't think they're doing a good job, even if we think they're doing terribly in their position right now, because we're in this together. And one thing I'd like to make mention, So many are concerned about churches closing. And where are people going to go to find the gospel? Well, you're looking at it right now. There are numbers of my friends that have already done Facebook Live movies, and so many people are watching. And I believe there are many people watching right now that don't go to church. They're seeing the church rise up in action, presenting Jesus Christ to the world that's hurting. So you're watching the church come alive as never before, and I think it's incredibly awesome. Also, before I start my little message, let me share with you, Susie Wilkins called me this morning, and she would like me to announce to the congregation that Nona is probably not going to make it very long. As you all know, she did fall, and I don't know if she broke bones or what happened, but I know that she lost a good bit of blood, and it was pretty scary for them. As I told Susie, I said, it's her time. She's ready to go, and she's going to be much better off where she's going. And honestly, Susie and Steve are both very excited about the fact that she's going home. So please pray for the family, and Steve, hang in there. Things are going to work out, and your mom's going to a better place. So let me start this morning with what I have to share. As many of my Montgomery friends know, I love Facebook memes, and I know I'm not alone with this. Recently I found a meme that is really cool, and I'm going to hold it up here and allow my camera crew to zoom in on it. And hopefully you can read this, and I'll hold this in front of my face so you can't see me, because it's much better that way. Hopefully you can read it. It says, "Only God can turn a mess into a message, a test into a testimony, a trial into a triumph, and a victim into a victory." That's good, isn't it? I think it's awesome. Those of you that are trying to video chat or comment, is it running now?
Yeah.
Please do not interrupt the feed. You can comment on the video, but do not try to video chat. It just interrupted the feed. I think we're live again. So, again, only God can turn a mess into a message, a test into a testimony, a trial into a triumph, and a victim into a victory. So, question 1, can God turn a mess into a message? Can you think of any times there were big messes in Scripture? A bunch come to mind. I think of David when he blew it with Bathsheba. What a mess he made. But I think of the message. Is it okay?
Greg said nothing is posting.
Just keep going.
Okay.
If you're not seeing this now, it'll show up, I'm sure. If not, we'll do another one and we'll make it work. Just ignore the comments and allow it to roll. I'm talking to my camera crew. So, can you think of any times there were big messes in Scripture? There's a bunch that come to mind. I think of David when he blew it with Bathsheba. I think, what a mess he made. What a mess she made. But think of the message that God proclaimed. I can use a mess that somebody made and make something great out of it. And look how David was used in later years. I think about Joseph when he was sold into slavery. What a mess his brothers made. But then look how God used it. What about Adam and Eve when they disobeyed God? The first big mess of history. They really screwed things up. But through that, God brought a beautiful plan of salvation to mankind. So do you think that we're in a mess right now? Yeah, I'd say we're in a mess right now. But instead of freaking out and hoarding all the toilet paper and bottled water, instead of arguing and criticizing over public officials and what they're doing, and instead of wondering where God is in the midst of this, let's instead ask, what might He be doing? He brought our families together for the first time in many families' lives. Hey, we can use a family again. Isn't that cool? He caused our churches to realize that we can't depend on a building for our stability, but on each other and our faith in God. He's caused each of us to take a breath, step back, be still, and hopefully pray more. So instead of looking at the mess, let's look to God. What message is He showing us? What message are we going to be giving to those that don't know Him? It's a message that God's not been caught by surprise. He's working. He's moving. He's with us. So then, can God turn a test into a testimony? Do any of you know of any situations in the Bible where people were greatly tested, yet a shining testimony was displayed? The first one I think about is the Apostle Paul. He went through incredible times of testing. He shared different times in Scripture how the incredible torture that he's gone through in his life. In several different places, he said he was whipped like Jesus was right before his death, before his crucifixion. But on 5 different times, he was beaten with rods. 3 times he was stoned, he was shipwrecked. In storms, he was robbed, hated, weary, sleepless, hungry, thirsty, cold, naked. I'd call that a bunch of tests, wouldn't you? Yet, what was his testimony? 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." What about the saints in history, the ones that were martyred for their faith? I think of our forefathers who sacrificed greatly to build the church that we are a part of right now. What is their testimony? I think about Corrie ten Boom. Most of you know her. Incredible testimony she had, even though she was tortured in prison for her faith. I don't know what this virus is going to look like in the upcoming weeks, but I do know for now, what we think is a little isolation and we feel like it's so terrible is nothing compared to what others have gone through. What is our testimony looking like to those around us that desperately need Christ? And I'm going to be honest, I'm really concerned about it. There's so much negativity, so much controversy on social media about politics, scandal, and corruptions. And hey, I'll be the first one to say that some of that, all of that, or everything could be true. But now isn't the time to make that the priority. Now is the time to let our light shine in a dark world that's screaming for help. Let's show them that we care, that we love, that we are willing to sacrifice for others, even if it hurts for a little while. Are you and I going to allow this test that we're going through right now to be used by God to create an awesome testimony of what He can do in a changed life? Then can God turn a trial into a triumph? Most of you know this passage, and ironically we studied it just a couple of weeks ago, Wednesday nights ago in our Bible study. Let me read it to you. James chapter 1, 2 through 6. "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like the wave of the sea, driven by the wind." So, count it all joy? Right. We're to be happy about this? No. But with any trial, if we allow God to work in us, it will strengthen our faith in Him. It will help us to grow. We'll be determined. Are we going to be strong? Are we going to give up? We're never happy when we face a trial, and none of us are happy right now, for sure. But all of us can look back on trials in our lives and realize how God helped us through, how helped us to grow, helped us to be triumphant. Trials produce patience. I know this personally because I have two individuals in my home that make that patience be put to the test. But look back on the trials you faced in your own life and see how you develop more patience through each one of them, learning to wait on God, wait on His timing. And somehow, though, each new trial presents itself with a new level of patience learning. Of course, we're promised that if we learn patience, as we just read here, if we learn it properly, then we're going to be perfect. Well, not really, because we know that we'll never be perfect here on earth, and we'll always be in need of more learning. Therefore, this is applying to our attitudes. I want to grow in my faith, Lord. I want to be used. I want to use this trial, or allow you to use this trial in me, help me grow, even though it's really hard. Is my attitude perfect? Then when James tells us to ask for wisdom, some have separated and interpreted this verse and pulled it apart from those other verses. It's all together. This whole passage here, these several verses, is all part of the principle that James is trying to explain. If we don't know how to do it, if we can't figure out how to grow in our faith, if we can't learn patience like we think we should, then we need to ask God for wisdom. He's promised He'll do it and do it liberally. Lord, I don't get it. I don't know how I'm supposed to grow through this pandemic, how I'm supposed to learn patience, how I'm supposed to grow. How is this going to help me grow spiritually? Give me direction. Then James tells us to ask in faith, knowing that God is going to grant us that wisdom and that direction. We don't want to doubt God's promises, because we'll be just drifting aimlessly on the sea of life with waves of doubt and fear pounding us. Let's not be in that boat. Listen, guys, I'm telling you that I'm not saying this because I have it all figured out. Frankly, I'm pretty freaked myself. But I know I serve a God who's so powerful, so incredibly mighty, that He's going to be giving me the grace and the wisdom that I need to make it through, and He's going to do the same for you. Ask Him for it. He will turn this trial into a triumph. Then, the last question that I showed you, can God turn a victim into a victory? And this word victim bothers me sometimes. I truly realize there are victims in this world, all over this world. There are ones that have been abused in terrible ways, and it's so sad. However, there are many, many folks out there that simply play the victim and selfishly make each situation about themselves, even when they weren't the victims at all. But I think we can safely say that no matter what side of the line you fall on, liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, male, female, young, old, we're all victims in this pandemic. I don't mean that everyone is going to be the victim and get sick, but that we are all victims in how this is interfering, affecting, scaring, crippling, whatever word you want to use to how this is affecting our lives. Can you think of other situations in Scripture where these victims, out of those situations came great victory? I think of Stephen and how through his death, Saul turned Paul and became the father of our church as we know it. What a victory. I think of even Jesus Christ, who had to be a victim for a time to create that incredible victory called salvation. What kind of victory might be won through this? I really don't know, but I see incredible potential. My sister, who isn't usually the sharpest tool in the shed, usually came up just a couple days ago. She actually came up with a really good statement. So this is for you, Letta. I love you. She said the harvest is really going to be ripe after the sickness blows through. Pretty good. So there you go, Letta. Write it down. I gave you a compliment. Folks, there are going to be people hurting, discouraged, and despair when this is said and done. They're going to be looking for comfort. Could the victory be that we lead them to Jesus? Even though we're all victims in this, I can definitely see our Father turning these things, these victims that we're dealing with, each one of us, into great victories for His glory. As I wrap this up, I noticed a little while ago as I was studying, there's a flip calendar on my desk, and it's open to the verse, I am with you always, Matthew 28:20. Matthew 28:20. Don't ever forget it. He will never leave us. He'll never forsake us. He is with us. He'll get us through. And that's all I have for this morning. I just want to make mention to this is probably the shortest sermon I've ever preached yet at Montgomery. And Brian Forrester, you can be happy about that. Doug Hellman, I doubt you had a chance to even fall asleep yet. Same with Greg Weller. So be safe out there. Stay healthy. Stay encouraged. I love each one of you. Hopefully we don't have to do this again. But if it is, and if we have to meet via live feed again, I will inform you or share with you next week as that progresses, or if we meet in person. God bless each one of you. Trust you have a blessed Lord's Day.